Your client is exhausted, overgiving, and running on empty. She keeps saying yes when everything inside her is screaming no, and she does not even know why. That is not a personality flaw. It is a learned pattern she cannot see yet. In this video, I am walking you through my 4-question people-pleasing coaching tool so you can help her stop self-abandoning and start showing up honestly. So let's talk about why your client says yes when she should be saying no. She knows she is exhausted, but she keeps pushing. She knows something does not feel right, but she talks herself out of it. She feels hurt, disappointed, or angry, but instead of saying what is true, she smiles and says, "It's fine." These may look like separate issues, but very often they are all expressions of the same underlying pattern. Your client is overriding herself, her own needs, feelings, desires, and well-being because she is concerned about how other people will react if she speaks her mind. What is happening in that moment when a client says yes when she should be saying no is that she's overriding her own needs and desires, often for someone else's wants. This is an act of self-betrayal, and it usually happens in small, everyday moments when a person knows what they want, feel, value, or need, and then they override that to avoid disappointing or upsetting others. Self-betrayal is not always obvious. It can look like agreeing to something while feeling an immediate heaviness in the body, laughing off a comment that genuinely hurt, working through exhaustion because resting might look lazy, staying quiet to prevent an argument, changing an opinion after someone disapproves, ignoring a gut feeling because there is no proof, saying, "I don't mind," when she absolutely does mind, giving more than she can afford, emotionally, physically, or financially, pretending not to want something because asking feels too vulnerable. Your client is not consciously thinking, "I am going to betray myself today." She is usually trying to protect herself from something that feels more threatening in the moment. She may be protecting herself from conflict, from rejection, from criticism, from being called selfish, difficult, or ungrateful, from the discomfort of knowing someone is disappointed in her. So when she says yes, even though she wants to say no, the goal is not self-betrayal. The goal is often safety. She may have learned that keeping other people happy is the quickest way to keep the relationship stable. She may have learned that speaking honestly leads to arguments, that setting a limit makes people withdraw, that expressing hurt gets dismissed, that having needs creates problems. The reason your client keeps overriding her own needs is not necessarily because she lacks boundaries, confidence, or self-discipline. It may be because somewhere along the way, she learned that being honest came with a cost. The cost might have been rejection, conflict, criticism, being called selfish, someone withdrawing affection, being misunderstood, disappointing a parent, partner, or authority figure, being seen as difficult, dramatic, or ungrateful. So the real choice does not feel like, do I honor my needs or ignore them? It feels like, do I honor myself and risk losing connection, or abandon myself and keep the peace? That is the emotional conflict underneath the behavior. Let me show you what this pattern often looks like in real time. It consists of 5 steps, but it happens so fast, your client doesn't even realize it's happening. She thinks that this is just how she is, or this type of self-sacrificing behavior is what good people naturally do. Let's go into each one of these 5 steps in more detail. Some external demand kicks off the cycle. Maybe someone asks her to do something she doesn't want, for example. Here is how she overrides her own needs and desires. The first thing that happens is that there is some internal signal of her own needs. Her internal dialogue may be something like this: "I'm tired. I don't want to do this. That comment hurt me. This situation does not feel right. The signal may come through as a thought, an emotion, tension in the body, a sense of dread, or simply a quiet knowing that something is off. But almost immediately, another process begins. Instead of asking, "What do I need?" she starts anticipating what might happen if she listens to herself. They'll be upset. They'll think I'm selfish. They may reject me. This could cause an argument. Now, the decision is no longer only about what she wants or needs. It becomes a decision about whether she is willing to risk someone else's disappointment, anger, or disapproval. And that is where the self-override happens. She says yes when she wants to say no. She stays quiet when something has hurt her. She keeps going when her body is asking her to stop. She talks herself out of what she feels, needs, or knows. In the moment, this often brings relief. The conflict is avoided. The other person stays happy. She does not have to explain herself, defend her decision, or sit with someone else's disappointment. And this is important because it helps us understand why the pattern continues. Self-override often works in the short term. It reduces immediate discomfort. But the relief does not last. Later, she may feel resentful because she agreed to something she did not want. She may feel exhausted because she ignored her limits. She may become confused about what she really thinks or feels because she has spent so long talking herself out of it. Over time, she can become disconnected from the signals in her own body. And eventually, she may lose trust in herself. Not because she has no intuition, not because she does not know what she needs, but because she has repeatedly learned that even when she hears herself clearly, she may not act on what she hears. The cycle is, she notices something true. She fears the consequence of honoring it. She overrides herself to avoid that consequence. She experiences temporary relief, and then she pays a much bigger emotional cost later. That is the pattern we need to help her interrupt. Not every time someone puts another person first is self-betrayal. Sometimes it's a healthy sacrifice. An example of a healthy sacrifice is a parent of a young baby who gets up at night to feed their infant, sacrificing some of their own sleep in the process, or one spouse caring for the other while they are ill. So, what's the difference between a healthy sacrifice and self-betrayal? A healthy sacrifice is conscious, freely chosen, aligned with the person's values, made without pretending they have no needs, not driven primarily by fear. Self-betrayal is more likely when the person denies what is true, feels unable to choose differently, acts mainly to control someone else's reaction, repeatedly abandons herself and becomes resentful. When trying to tell if your client's actions are healthy sacrifice or self-betrayal, the question to ask is not, did your client put someone else first? Instead, what you should be asking yourself is, did she make a conscious, values-based choice, or did fear make the decision for her? I want to share a coaching technique called the self-override pause that you can use to help your clients to tell the difference between healthy sacrifice and self-abandonment. This is just one of the many coaching tools that are available in the Transformation Coaching Toolkit, link in the description. So when a client notices that she is about to agree, minimize, push through, or stay silent, ask her to pause and answer 4 questions. Question 1 is, what is true for me right now? Question 2 is, what am I about to override? Question 3 is, what am I afraid will happen if I honor it? And question 4 is, what is the smallest honest action I can take? The first question is, what is true for me right now? This sounds simple, but for someone used to overriding herself, it can be surprisingly difficult to answer. She may be more aware of what everyone else is feeling than of what is happening inside her. She knows her partner is stressed, her manager is under pressure, or her friend needs support. But when you ask, what is true for you? She may immediately explain the other person. They didn't mean it. They have a lot going on. They'll be upset if I don't help. None of those answers tell us what is true for her. So invite her to pause before she explains, minimizes, or decides, and notice 4 things. What am I feeling? What am I noticing? What am I wanting? What am I needing? The second question is, what am I about to override? This helps your client identify exactly what she is about to ignore. Is it a limit? She knows she is exhausted, but agrees to do more. Is it an emotion? She feels hurt, but tells herself she is being too sensitive. Is it a value? She values honesty, but agrees just to avoid tension. Is it a bodily signal? Her chest tightens, or she feels immediate dread, but she pushes through. Is it a preference? She says, I don't mind, even though she does. Is it her intuition? Something feels off, but she talks herself out of slowing down. Not every feeling or body signal has to control the decision, but it deserves to be noticed. So ask, what part of yourself are you about to leave out of this decision? Once she can name it, she is more able to choose consciously instead of automatically overriding herself. The third question in the self-override pause is, what am I afraid will happen if I honor what is true for me? This question helps uncover the fear underneath the behavior. Your client may fear that someone will become angry, disappointed, or critical. She may simply be afraid of the guilt she expects to feel afterward. Help her to identify what that fear underneath her self-abandoning behavior is. The fourth question is, what is the smallest honest action I can take? This question is important because clients often assume that honoring themselves requires a huge confrontation, a dramatic boundary, or a complete change in the relationship. That can feel overwhelming. Sometimes the smallest honest action is simply asking for time. Instead of automatically saying yes, she says, let me think about it and get back to you. That one sentence creates space between the request and the automatic self-override. Sometimes the action is a clear but simple no. I'm not available today. She does not need a long explanation. She does not need to prove that her reason is good enough. Sometimes honesty means naming what happened. That comment hurt me. I felt dismissed in that conversation. I agreed earlier, but I realize this is more than I can manage. She is not attacking the other person. She is simply allowing her experience to be part of the conversation. The smallest action may also be physical. If her body is exhausted, she may rest for 20 minutes instead of pushing through another 3 hours. If she feels overwhelmed, she may step outside, take a break, or postpone one non-urgent task. Sometimes she does not need to say no yet. She needs more information. She might ask, what exactly would you need from me? When would this need to be completed? Is there another option? One clarifying question can reveal that the request is smaller, larger, or more negotiable than she assumed. And sometimes the smallest honest action is saying, that doesn't work for me. Not, you are wrong. Not, I will never do this. Simply, that doesn't work for me. The goal is not to make the client fearless before she acts. She may still feel guilty. She may still worry that someone will be disappointed. She may still feel uncomfortable. The question is whether she can take one honest step while allowing that discomfort to be present. Small actions matter because they help rebuild self-trust. Let's walk through a simple example. A friend asks your client to help with something on Saturday. Your client has had an exhausting week. She is already running on empty, and what she really needs is a quiet day at home to rest and recover. But before she even gives herself time to think, she says, yes, of course. Let's slow the moment down. The first question is, what did she know? She already knew, I need a quiet day at home. Her body may have felt heavy. She may have noticed immediate dread. She may even have been looking forward to having one day with no demands. So the truth was there. The next question is, what did she fear? She may have thought, My friend will think I'm selfish. She'll think I'm unreliable. She may be disappointed in me. This is where the decision shifts. It is no longer only about whether she has the energy to help. It becomes about whether she can tolerate her friend's possible disappointment. Then we ask, how did she override herself? She agreed immediately. She did not pause. She did not check her capacity. She did not ask for time to think. She moved straight from the request to yes. And in the short term, that gave her a reward. Her friend was pleased. There was no awkward conversation. She did not have to feel guilty in that moment. The immediate discomfort disappeared. But then came the longer-term cost. By Saturday, she felt exhausted. She may have been irritable or resentful while helping. She may have thought, why am I always the one people call? But underneath that resentment, she may also have been angry with herself because she knew she had needed rest and ignored it. This is where we help the client find a different response. A self-honoring response does not have to be harsh or dramatic. It might sound like, I can't help this Saturday. I need the day to recover, but I could help you for an hour next weekend. That response is honest, clear, and still caring. She is not rejecting the friendship. She is not saying her friend's needs do not matter. She is simply refusing to remove herself from the decision. And that is the shift. The goal is not to teach clients to say no to everything. It is to help them pause long enough to notice what is true, name what they fear, and choose a response that does not require them to abandon themselves. You can coach this using the 4 questions I have shared today. But when the pattern is deeply ingrained, it helps the client to see it mapped out in front of her. The self-betrayal audit, which is the first tool in the transformation toolkit, takes her through the moments when she overrides herself, the fear driving the behavior, and the cost she is paying for continuing it. It also helps you identify which forms of self-betrayal appear most often in her life, so you know where to take the coaching next. Link is in the description and in the first pinned comment. Your client does not rebuild self-trust by making one enormous, courageous decision. She rebuilds it in ordinary moments, when she notices what is true, allows it to matter, and takes one small action that does not require her to abandon herself. That is where self-trust begins.